Great. Thank you. Welcome, everybody, to this July 22nd council meeting. Call to order at 6:04. We respect and recognize the First Nations within whose unceded lands the village of Kaslo is situated, including the Kaha, the Snakes, the Siletz people, and the Indigenous and Métis residents of our community. And I'm going to start by welcoming Carissa back. He's trying to hide in the corner. We're happy to have you back. We were sorry to see legal, but we're happy to have you back. So thank you. We've got two late items. One is already on the agenda as 8.1, and that's Kaslo Jazz Festival requests. And then another item is fairly late, but so it's to add the appointing the MIA BC or Municipal Insurance Association of BC voting delegate for the AGM, which will happen at the UBCM conference in Victoria. So we normally do it, I think, in June or the early July, but we missed doing that. You add those two late items, moved by Councillor Brown, second by Councillor Lang. Discussion. Those in favor? Carried. And then a motion to adopt the agenda as amended to include the late items. Moved by Councillor Brown, second by Councillor Lang. All those in favor? Carried. And then the minutes of the June 24th meeting, if there's no errors or omissions, we can motion to adopt them. Moved by Councillor Brown, second by Councillor Bird. Any discussion? All those in favor? That is carried. We'll move into information reports. I've provided my written report. It's the first one in a long time, so it is quite lengthy. And then I just wanted to say thank you for everybody showing up at last night's meeting. I thought it went very, very well. And it was respectful and for the most part, and everybody, I think, left feeling like they were heard and their questions were answered. And if not, then please feel free to write to us or communicate. So thank you. So are there any questions on my report? Councillor Leawood.
To the chair. I was trying to find that transfer report. You said it was on the RDCK website, but I couldn't find it.
Oh, it's the transit report. Did I provide a link?
I don't think so. You just said that it was on the RDCK website because you had mentioned that our service would increase. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to see like what exactly that meant. Oh, maybe you could.
Oh, the cost of the service would increase.
Oh, the cost. So the
Yes.
actual service won't increase.
Not at this point, no.
Oh, okay.
So it is part of the West Transit meeting minutes, or on the website. They've got all the minutes.
Oh, okay.
It's listed, so you
Okay.
can go there.
Okay.
Because rather than put a very lengthy report in
Right.
our council minutes in package for us to store as well, I thought it was better just to reference it that way.
Okay. And then the other question I had was, you mentioned that you got an update on the consultation with the Indigenous.
That was for, that's all I can say.
Oh, okay. We will get a report, right? Because we did contribute money for that.
No, that was just different. That was just one
okay.
relationship between Indigenous nations and the regional district. And
okay.
An update from Wayne Giles. So we could request that he come and speak to us.
Okay.
From the ministry.
Okay.
But it wasn't an open meeting.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Councillor
Brown. In that report around the transit, do we have any idea how much more the requisition might be?
Ooh, it will creep up by, I think, a couple of percent each year. And if, we had a copy of the financial report and it does show the steps because it's always a 5-year.
Mhm.
And it does go up a bit. And the same with, I put it in there about community sustainability. It's the same thing because we've got one member municipality or area dropped off this year. So everybody else's taxation went up. And there's 2 others that the areas that have signaled their intent to withdraw from the service. And they have to give 2 years notice. So the next few years it'll essentially double our requisition
Wow.
for that service. So, we might want to have a discussion about whether we continue, whether we're actually seeing value from that service.
Yep.
So. Any other questions? I'll move on then to council reports. Councillor Leapen. Yeah.
Nope.
First. Okay, thank you. Councillor Bird. Okay. Brown.
Nothing this time.
All right. So then we'll move into committee meetings. So we've got the minutes of the Health Advisory Committee and the Events Committee. Did you want to just give a little overview if you're comfortable with that? Because we don't have any recommendations coming out of the Health Advisory Committee. So this is the only time it appears on the agenda. Did you want to give a little report on the Health Advisory?
Not quite prepared to do that.
That's fine. Well, just Tyler Dobie came, right? And Suzanne Lee was there.
Yeah, so a topic at the Health Advisory Committee meeting was the expansion of the long-term care beds and at the hospital. And I guess the question that so Tyler Dobie has been putting a lot of time into this, and he's actually got the ear of people that no one has gotten the ear of for decades, which is impressive. Which doesn't mean anything particular at this time, except for, there is more awareness of the needs here. The problem here in Kaslo is, as far as the Interior Health Authority goes, we don't actually apparently need any new beds at the hospital from their own demographics and studies. And if anyone wants to look at that study and raise your eyebrows at it, it's available through you can request it. It's a couple of years old, but that's been kind of a sticking point. It's pretty hard to negotiate with an entity who doesn't believe you need what you're asking for. Tyler Dobie has managed to push the needle on this one a little bit and push back on the idea that it's not necessary. And so I think it's a positive sign. I can't give you any concrete steps that will be taken, but the fact that the communication is opening up is a really, really good thing. I mean, it's rather small, but anything is better than nothing at all or a negative. So yeah, and that's what sticks in my mind. I would be better prepared if I thought.
Sorry, I just thought I didn't want to talk about, because you were also there.
Yes, I was also there.
Yeah, I should have given you a heads up.
I took notes, actually.
We did, because a member of the committee had requested an update on the activities at the health center. So I reached out to Lannon DeBest and asked him if he could come, but he sent Suzanne Lee, who is the site manager for Kaslo and several other facilities. And she came and gave a report, and Dr. Masaji also emailed a brief report because she was unable to come. So,
and that primary care is fully staffed right now, except for physiotherapist. And on that same note with the long-term care at the rural, oh, sorry, that's my notes. And that there is an outreach clinic with doctors going to Meadow Creek once a month, which is a good thing.
Mhm.
And there is a new senior services collaborative, which is a situation where the health professionals are connecting with each other, so discussing seniors' care in our area, and a new seniors discussion group, and a seniors community connect is a new feature where they've hired someone to facilitate this. And I guess if you need to find out more.
I'm doing that.
Thank you. And sorry to put you on the spot. You did well, though. All right, and then the next set of minutes, Kaslo Events Committee, and is Councillor Leithwood and I. Do you want to speak to that?
To the chair, so we're having our birthday celebration on the 15th of August. Pretty well the same format as last year. We'll do that 12 to 2. We'll do the Citizen of the Year at 1:30, have music, cake, lemonade, have a couple of booths set up. We're asking the community garden who came and gave us a delegation on promoting, bee gardens and stuff. So we have purchased some seeds to give away to anyone who comes. And the hospital auxiliary is hoping to do a walking tour on that day, like we did on July 1st. I don't think the RCMP will be available this time for pictures, but so we're hoping that anyone who has some time to help us get set up on Friday, like last year, would be great. Maybe your grandkids could be on balloon patrol. That was great. Anyway, so hopefully everyone can pop in.
You. And further to that, there's, we had a couple of recommendations in there, but because they're all things that are covered under our budget, we didn't really need to make any recommendations to council. So just wanted to mention them that, a few things, the Citizen of the Year Selection Committee, we met and chose the successful, nominee, and staff was informed so they could order the plaques. And based upon my participation for the last 2 years in the BC Achievement Awards as a jury member, they hold their nominations over, like any unsuccessful ones get carried forward. And I thought that's a nice idea because sometimes people won't renominate, even though they're very worthy recipients. You can't pick everybody. So we're going to hold them over for 1 year. So staff knows that and has already started the file. So we'll put that on the website and on the Facebook page just to note the change in procedure. And, yeah, that's about it. And we're going to see if we can get the switch the purpose of the community development grant, which we didn't spend all of on the volunteer fair, and cover some of the additional costs for Kaslo's birthday and the Citizen of the Year. So that's it. All right, we'll move to staff reports. CEO Baker.
Just a few updates. Second quarter municipal progress report has been provided to council as part of your package. It has some up-to-date info on projects and your strategic priorities, as well as the budget and some planning items. And we had chatted at the last council meeting about looking at council's procedures bylaw. And so we hope to set up a meeting here in July, but due to the availability of the consultant and some personal stuff that's come up, we'll have to delay it a bit, but that's fine. Staff have kind of chatted internally and had a conversation with the mayor about how things might look. And So you recall one of the big topics was what do we do with the amount of correspondence that council receives? And so staff are looking into what's possible through our diligent platform where we could put letters that have been addressed to council, but aren't necessarily of interest to the public, but certainly council would want to review them and potentially, pull one for discussion at a future council meeting. So if there's a way to put all of those in a folder through Diligent, and then every week when you get your calendar, we just remind you that you can go look in that folder and see if there's anything of interest. And then, of course, we would still include correspondence on the agenda, but it would be geared towards things that have been sent to council that might also be of interest to the public. So if there was something going on with emergency preparedness within the regional district, council would be interested in it, but the public might be interested as well. So those types of things might still appear on the correspondence. And then, of course, if there's any correspondence that council has seen or received that you'd like to actually make a decision on or take action, then we would just ask that you let us know before the cutoff, before the previous meeting, the previous week. And then we put it as a business item. So staff are looking into what's the capacity of Diligent and what can we do? And we'll marry that with some insight from the consultant that we're hoping to bring on board, as well as council's input. So bear with us, and still on our radar. Just a note, when it comes to planning and development, you actually, item 7.1 for today, which is development permit number 2025-01, they've asked for the village to hold that in abeyance. And so council won't need to make a decision on that this evening. We can move on to 7.2 once you get to your business items. And just to touch real briefly on the RV park proposal. So as you all know, we had our open house last night, high level overview of the process to date, and tried to correct some of the misinformation we've seen in the media. And also the public had an opportunity to communicate directly with council, and the event seemed to be well received. Comments we heard last night, as well as some letters and calls we received today at City Hall, were positive. And at council's last meeting, direction was given to staff to produce a public document that corrects some of that misinformation we've seen. And council provided input on what it would like to see. We drafted that document. It's now on the village's website, and I believe it's included as an item within your agenda. Just perhaps keep in mind that there has been one revision made to that document. So whenever you're looking to provide others or look at and read the most recent document, you'd want to look for the revision date, which was yesterday. And council has also provided staff with input on the terms and conditions of the purchase and sale agreement. And a committee of the whole will occur in August, where council will look to reach a consensus on what those terms and conditions will be. We'll involve our lawyer either beforehand or during that meeting or after, whatever makes sense once we've had a chance to chat with them. And no action is needed of council at this time. Just wanted to make sure you're aware of what the next steps are for that project. And also within your package, there's a letter from a resident asking for sidewalk repair on D Avenue. So that's been forwarded to Public Works to do an inspection and coordinate repair if that's what's needed for that. So that's been taken care of. And the last item would be an update on the operational certificate for our wastewater utility or sewer plant. So staff are meeting with an engineer in the ministry this week to look at the draft requirements that would be part of the new operating certificate and make sure that staff understand everything and the ministry is clear on what the design of our system actually is. And then a lot of that info that the engineer gathers is going to help us prepare a grant application that's due in September that can help fund improvements to the wastewater plant. And we'll be coming to council once we've gathered all that info and have an understanding of the grant and exactly what we're asking for. We'll be coming to council asking for permission to proceed with that application. So expect that in the next couple of months. And then there's a periodic inspection by a different division within the ministry that's going to be doing an inspection of wastewater plant next week. And that's my update. Thank you, Mayor Hewitt.
Thank you, CEO Baker. Are there any questions? Councillor Leakwood.
To the chair, Do we do a sidewalk inventory every year or?
So annually, we do a inspection of every sidewalk within the village and make notes, and then staff will go back out and either highlight where there could be a trip hazard, but it doesn't reach the threshold where repair is required.
Okay.
And then if repair has meet the threshold, then we'll rent equipment and grind down concrete to the right level. And certainly there's a lot of sidewalks in Kaslo that need attention. The village has a policy in place for sidewalks, and it's also on your strategic priorities list to have it reviewed before the end of the year to make sure we're in compliance with best practices for risk management.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Lang.
Yeah, through the chair. So is there any sidewalk, pouring of new sidewalks scheduled for this year?
Through the chair, no, there's no, at this time, there's none planned, but Public Works has been given the freedom that if they come across a sidewalk in their inventory that needs to be done, then do it. And if we need more money than we have in the budget, then let management know and we'll make it happen.
Thank you.
Through the chair, you know, over the last few months, or earlier than that, we've had a request for signage and other like traffic calming measures, you know, around the park and various other places. And I'm just wondering what the kind of timeline, what people can expect to be looking at this or that particular problem area.
Through the chair, staff have been asked to focus on the Bimby Park area. And that's because of the number of complaints or concerns we had about that area. And what I've said to staff is, read the documents, go look at the area and come up with a plan, what you think makes good sense. And let me know if you need additional funding that's not in the budget. They haven't provided staff with a plan of exactly what they're going to do. And I think it's probably in part because they haven't gone and taken a close look yet. They had, you know, spring is a bit busy with grass cutting. And then at this time of year, it's employees are on vacation, they come back, a different employee's off, they come back. And so I think once they start to get into September, and they have everyone back at work, they would have more time to start looking at plans. Realistically, I don't know if any changes are going to be made at Vindy Park in 2025 based on their workload and that it hasn't already come up.
Questions? Great, thank you. Okay, so then we've got 3 items of correspondence. One was spoken about in the CAO report, and so action is being taken on that. If anyone, Councillor Brown, if you're interested in either of the any of the resource breakfasts, that's the only thing that because you and I and CAO Baker are the only ones attending UBCM. So if you're interested, you'll have to let staff know soon. Okay, and then we'll move on to the second quarter financial report, or progress report. Did you want to speak to that or just answer questions?
Yeah, I think just open it up if there's anything.
Okay. Are there any questions on any of the items in the report? Right. Yeah, it all looks straightforward.
Yeah.
Okay, and our next item, Director of Financial Services. Copy of the announcement that Joni LaRue will be joining us as our new Director of Finance and Corporate Services effective August 20th. Proposed RV card for the record, and that is just for our information. We reviewed that last night at the meeting, and the South Kaslo Development Plan, what we heard Did, did Ian want to speak to this or
I think, you
just
know,
answer questions if
yeah,
you had any?
just information at this point.
Okay, all right. Okay. Then that brings us to question period. Are there any questions from members of the public? I could get online today. I could get my meeting packages working, but I can't get onto the website to get on Zoom, so I can't see if anybody has a raised hand online. Go ahead, Linda.
I just want to say thank you so much for yesterday. I know it's not a question, but just to squeeze it in because it was fantastic. And I think it just alleviated a lot of misinformation and information. And I just want to thank everybody because I thought it was fantastic. And Susan, you did excuse me, Mayor Hewitt, you did an amazing job with Robert Baker of conducting it. And it just cleared the air. And I appreciate it. We all do. So
Thank you so much.
there you go. Thank you.
All right. So if you have any questions online, if you want to use the raise hand function, or you can just unmute yourself and ask.
We have to unmute them.
Oh, okay. I guess you'll have to use the raise hand because we'll have to unmute you if you do have a question. Right, not seeing anyone, so then we'll move into the business portion of our meeting. So the first item, the DVP at 405 4th Street has been pulled from the agenda at this time at the request of the applicant. So we'll go on to DVP 2025-0233 for 331 Front Street. And there is a staff report attached. Are there any questions on that before I move the recommendation? Councillor Leafwood.
To the chair, what, do we have different definitions for restaurant and coffee shop?
Through the chair, I would perhaps turn this one over to Ian. We'll have him unmute himself because he's going to be far more expertise than I do on it.
Let's get waiting to unmute. Yeah, so in the zoning bylaw, the section for parking, it doesn't really get into that kind of minutia of different classifications for restaurants. It's really just a restaurant, whether it indoor, outdoor, temporary. It has the ratio of one parking space per 5 seats. So that's why, as you can read in the report, in this case, it's it falls into that, but it really isn't quite the same as an intensive normal restaurant where people would go for full meals, et cetera. It's more of a convenience takeout, and people might stop in the nice weather to enjoy what they've purchased, but they more than likely also have other business downtown. So we don't see this having the same demand on parking as a regular restaurant would. There's also been similar exemptions made for outdoor patios, such as the Doghouse restaurant a couple of years ago when that first opened. So it's really not unusual to make exceptions for this type of, especially seasonal kind of use.
Okay, thank you.
Right, so the recommendation is that a development variance permit be issued as recommended in the staff report titled DVP 2025-02 parking variance at 331 Front Street dated July 16th, 2025. By Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Leafwood. Any discussion? All those in favor? It's carried. I must say I like the visual of what they presented in the package there. That good ice cream at the facility the other day. It was good. Helps when you have 2 granddaughters in town. All right. Next item is community development grants. So all 3 of these items were in the budget and budgeted for these grants to be applied for certain projects. So I think the first one is that the village applied to the RDCK's Community Development Grant Program for 20,000 towards Kaslo and District Arena upgrades project. By Councillor Leakwood, seconded by Councillor Lang. Any discussion? Or any questions for Ian? All those in favor? Is carried. And that the village applied to the RDCK's Community Development Grant Program for $30,000 towards the painting of City Hall and purchase of visual equipment for council chambers. By Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Leakwood. Any discussion? All those in favor? So carried. And finally, that the village applied to the RDCK's Community Development Grant Program for $40,000 towards the Kemble Memorial Center renovations. By Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Lang. Discussion? All those in favor? It's carried. On the audio visual, I just wanted to hopefully we haven't actually gotten any feedback from members of the public about whether the new setup is working better than it had been. It from this end, it seems like it is better. Ian, you think it's better than it had been? Excellent. All right. Well, please give feedback if you don't think it's good, or if you do think it's good. Seems to be working smoothly. All right, so the next one is the RDCK OCP bylaw amendment. This one came through as a referral. And so we can comment on the OCP that they're developing. And so there's some fringe areas around Kaslo, so in area D. So if we want to comment on it, so that the recommendation is that staff review the Regional District of Central Kootenay's land use bylaw amendment for potential effects on the village of Kaslo and provide a response to the RDCK prior to August 15, 2025. Moved by Councillor Bird, seconded by Councillor Leakwood. Any discussion? Councillor Lang.
Yeah, through the chair, I'm just curious how much time this is gonna take.
Through the chair, I have the same concern. And so, you know, staff are going to be focusing on looking at the parts of the bylaw that we think actually are going to have an impact on us, like the McDonald Creek area. And otherwise, I don't think it's going to take too much time. It might even be quicker for me to just give a call to the RDCK and have a conversation with them, 5-10 minute conversation, and understand what they think the impacts might be. And so I don't think it's going to be onerous at all.
Thank you.
And we have the other process going along with the, it was referenced last night about the boundary, like the development, what do they call it? It was the whole
Growth?
of the RDC, the regional growth strategy. There's been a pivot in what is being done. So there'll be more communication about that, but the direction isn't exactly the same as it had been when it was originally envisioned. So I think we'll hear more about that.
Through the chair, so you think we'll get kind of an update from the RDCK on how that is going? It would be kind of interesting to have a delegation from them to present. Because I found it very confusing from the beginning, exactly what they were trying to do.
I think that's why the project has changed directions.
Oh.
So we just talked about it last week at the regional district meeting, how it was changed. So I think they're still in the midst of trying to figure out what they're going to do and how to get the consultants working on based on the new direction, the new path. So,
Always curious.
yeah. All right. So that was moved and seconded, the resolution, but we haven't voted on it. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? Yes, carried. 7.5 is the Community Resiliency Investment Fire Smart Program funding. So the recommendation is that staff fully execute the 2025 CRI Fire Smart Community Funding and Supports Allocation-Based Approval Agreement and Terms of Conditions of Funding. Moved by Councillor Leitwood, seconded by Councillor Brown. Discussion? All those in favor? Carried. And a council remuneration task force. I think we'll let CAO Baker speak to this if you don't mind.
Thank you, Mayor Hewitt. So I know it's, there was a bit of back and forth earlier this year trying to figure out if council was interested in proceeding or not. And then direction was given in the last couple of months that council was interested in proceeding. And so staff took a look at what the options were. Staff could do a remuneration review, and yet that there's pros and cons. It's less expensive because you're not paying for a consultant or someone else, but then it puts staff in an awkward position where they're making recommendations for council. Another option was to hire a consultant. They might not have expertise of our specific area, but they've probably done a bunch of them and have learned a lot of good lessons along the way. And yet it comes with a cost, consulting fees. And depending on where you are, a big community or a small community, you typically found smaller communities using staff to do the work. But the best practice recommended by UBCM was to use a task force. And so in this particular instance, staff are recommending that if council's interested in proceeding, then a task force, would be the best practice. Doesn't require us to adjust our budget to go find money for a consultant. And so pulled together terms of reference that appear to be in line with industry best practices. And so it's up to council then to have a discussion and determine if it does want to proceed and if the structure of the committee, the types of members make sense, and if there are any other terms that would like edited.
Thank you. Okay, any comments or questions for CAO Baker? And then to the recommendation that a call for membership be issued for a council remuneration task force based on the terms of reference presented in the staff report titled Council Remuneration Review dated June 24th, 2025. Moved by Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Lang. Discussion? All those in favor? It's carried. Let's note that three of us around the table were on council. I think were on council the last time we had one, and it was similar. We had a council member, staff member, and 2 members of the public who sat on that committee, and it actually went very well. And because they were sometimes critical of council and what we do, but looked at it in a very professional manner. So I would expect that we would get the same quality of public members to sit on this task force. So looking forward to seeing what was done. And the intent with this is it wouldn't be enacted for this council. It would be for the new council elected in 2026. So we wouldn't be giving ourselves raising. All right, next item is the financial officer and corporate administrator. So the recommendation is that Joni LaRue be appointed as the village's chief financial officer and corporate officer effective August 2025, and that Robert Baker cease to be the village's chief financial officer and corporate officer effective August 2025. Councillor Brown, by Councillor Bird. Discussion? All those in favor? Motion is carried. Permissive tax exemptions. Recommendation is that the permissive tax exemption policy dated June 26, 2025 be adopted. If council has any questions before we actually move the motion. Councillor Bird?
Yeah, so looking through, this is a If this is replacing another policy?
Through the chair, I don't believe the village currently has a permissive tax exemption policy, but what it has through its 5-year financial plan is policy statements on how the village is going to use permissive tax exemptions. They're quite vague and don't provide much meat or direction for staff. And so having a formal policy would be far more prescriptive what process council wants staff to follow.
Chair supplemental, have you calculated, the difference, if this policy will be applied to the 2026 tax year? That's right.
Through the chair, correct.
And have you reviewed this policy with looking at the 2025 permissive tax exemptions, which total, what, 58,000 in, permissive tax exemptions, and applied this new policy? I'm just wondering, if this were to be applied, what would be the difference for the people that currently enjoy a permissive tax exemption, if you've done those calculations?
Through the chair, staff don't expect there to be any change for the applicants. What I think council will see change is that there's a number of churches currently listed on our permissive tax exemptions that don't actually need a permissive tax exemption. They're fully covered through statutory tax exemptions. So what you'd see is a reduction in the supposed amount of money that's going towards permissive tax exemptions in the neighborhood of possibly, up to $20,000. So you'd see it go from approximately $51,000 for 2025 all the way down to $30,000. That doesn't mean there's less permissive tax exemptions actually being given out. It's just being covered by the province anyway. So it really has no financial effect. It's an administrative exercise. So it's one of the changes you'd see is we would clean up the some of the misinformation or misunderstanding that's been in the current or previous permissive tax exemption bylaws. So you'd see it cleaned up administratively. What all of the other nonprofit organizations in the community who currently have an exemption, a legitimate exemption, have been advised and encouraged to apply for 2026 moving forward. So you could expect to see all of them or most of them apply again. And this policy doesn't prescribe how council is going to decide whether to give an exemption to them or not. All it's done is put guidelines on who's allowed to apply, which is basically you have to be a nonprofit organization, everything in accordance with the community charter, et cetera, real general, normal things that every other municipality has in their application process. And so what council will then get to decide in the fall will be, okay, now we've seen all the applications. Staff have given us a general idea of the value of these permissive tax exemptions, which would then fall to general taxation. And you can decide, do we want to grant it to all of them? Or, oh no, we didn't like that dollar value. That's a lot of money to put onto general taxation. Instead of it being 30,000, we only want to commit to 20,000. And so how then do you want to divide it up amongst those applicants for 2026 going forward? So the policy just has how do people apply and what are the law, the law and the legislation. Council is then going to get to decide specifically who are you going to approve. Is there going to be a dollar value or a percentage that you give to each of them? So you have decisions to make in October related to what you want to see.
Do you have a supplement?
Yeah, supplemental. So, I'm looking at nonprofit organizations that provide liquor and or meal services as their primary function and or source of revenue will not be eligible for permissive tax exemption. So I think of the clubhouse at the golf course. So is that a change? Because the golf course as a whole always had a permissive tax exemption. But suddenly this particular line would seem to preclude them applying for that area that is the, where the clubhouse is. Does that change?
Through the chair, the clubhouse wouldn't be deemed a primary liquor establishment. That's not, their function is not to serve liquor. Their function is a golf course. And so they wouldn't be excluded from this policy.
But they do supplemental, they do provide liquor and or meal services.
Which, sorry, through the chair, could you let me know which line item?
24.
So again, through the chair, staff would not deem the primary function of the golf course to be liquor and meal service. Staff would deem it to be a golf course.
But it, or source of revenue. As their primary function and or source of revenue.
So through the chair, again, staff would not deem the primary source of revenue for the golf course to be liquor and food. Staff would deem it to be revenue through the golf course.
All right. And then through the chair, the other one I noticed was, the principal use of the property, this is number 22, refers to the use related directly to the principal purpose of the nonprofit organization owning the property. I'm thinking of the thrift store where what is, where they would be taxed is on their building, which is, the thrift store, which is not actually the principal purpose of the nonprofit organization. It's just their way of fundraising for their purpose. So I'm wondering how that might affect the thrift store. Permissive tax exemptions will be based on the principal use of the property, not on the nonprofit or charitable services of the organization.
Do you want me to comment?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just speaking in turn. Through the chair, so when it comes to the thrift store property, the principal use of the property is a thrift store, not a hospital, let's say. So I recall we were going through negotiations on their agreement, and they, had tried to come with the angle that they're doing hospital related stuff on their property. That's not true. They're a thrift store. And so council would be within its right to grant a permissive tax exemption to a property whose principal use is a thrift store. It's a nonprofit organization. They're doing good nonprofit work in the community, and so there wouldn't be any impact on them.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Leekland.
Yeah, to the chair. So those properties that are exempt because they're statutory ones, then we don't pay the government portions of the tax either, like school and hospital. Because we do for the other permissive tax exemptions we get, right?
Through the chair, when there's a tax exemption granted, the burden of that, so now the revenue is not coming from that organization. So the burden of that tax falls to the general the rest of the tax base.
Right. So, but those ones that get statutory, do they still have to pay government tax like schools and hospital and police? Or do they get statutory for everything?
Through the chair, that's correct.
Okay, good. Thanks.
Questions? Just on number 22, it references owning the property. And many of them rent. Or lease from the village, and that's how they get their exemption, like the arena, the curling club, tennis club. There's many of them that get the exemptions on that basis, because they're not technically not for profit, some of them, right? The tennis club isn't a not for profit, or the racket club, well, maybe they are now, but there are some that aren't registered not for profits. They're organizations who carry on good work, so just wonder about that, and because it does specifically say owning the property.
through the chair, staff don't believe there's a conflict, but perhaps what might make sense is if council's willing to proceed with this policy, and staff will make a note to go through and make sure this wouldn't disqualify organizations that don't own the property but are leasing it. And if we find that there's potentially a conflict or an issue with this policy, then we'll come back to council and ask for an amendment to it so that it doesn't exclude people inadvertently.
Council comfortable with that? Okay, so the recommendation is that the permissive tax exemption policy drafted June 26, 2025 be adopted. Moved by Councillor Lang, seconded by Councillor Leafwood. All those in favor? Is carried. And our first late item is Kaslo Jazz Etc. Society 2025 Festival request. Few of them. So the first one is that for the 2025 Jazz Fest event, the village closed portions of Castle Bay Road to non-event traffic from 8 a.m. Wednesday, July 30th, 2025 until 8 a.m. Monday, August 4th, 2025, and that Castle Bay Park hours be extended to until midnight on August 1st to 3rd, 2025, and that amplified music be permitted from 10 p.m. until midnight. 1st to 3rd, 2025, and that a license of occupation be issued to the Kaslo Jazz Etc. Society for the use of village land to operate the campground from July 1st to August 4th, 2025, as detailed in the staff report titled Kaslo Jazz Etc. Society 2025 event request dated July 21st, 2025. Moved by Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Bird. Any discussion? All those in favor? Carried. And next recommendation is that for the 2025 Jazz Fest event, the Kaslo Jazz Etc. Society be charged a daily land use fee of $30 a day and camper fees that are 50% of the village's large event fees as part of the license of occupation for the village, the use of the village's South Beach lands as a campground. Moved by Councillor Leafwood, seconded by Councillor Lang. Discussion, Councillor Leafwood?
So this is the first time we've charged this, I believe. And so I'm just wondering what the rationale for that is. And how much land are we talking about? Because the bulk of the land is privately owned. So how much land do we actually own over at South Beach that there will be camping on?
Will Baker?
So, thank you, Mayor Hewitt. So you're correct. The village has not applied daily fees or large event fees to the South Beach lands for a campground in the past. That's why we've separated as a separate resolution or recommendation to see if council has the appetite. How much land is used as a campground? Little hard to tell because the society has not provided us with a map of the campground. And so staff are left to assume. And keep in mind, hasn't been any time to actually have a conversation with them about this at all because it was provided to us on Thursday afternoon. So staff are guessing the amount of land that's being used, and it's hard to quantify, but it's estimated that potentially, there's about, we know we have, roughly 5 acres of road allowances there, and some lots. And then we know the other private landowner has, probably, somewhere around 20 acres total of land in the whole area. And so where is the campground situated? Not entirely sure, but at most they'd probably be using 50% of the village's land that's down there in the way of road allowances and actual lots that are owned. So staff are imagining that 50% is village land of all that's being used. And that's why the suggestion in the staff report is that 50% of that large event fee apply rather than all of the large event fee.
Supplemental,
Think about it.
Counselor Berg.
Through the chair, yeah, it's too bad that their submissions were so late for all of these required paperwork items, because this would be a place where we should negotiate. But you know, if you're going to make your applications way too late, then you also lose the opportunity to negotiate in favorable terms for yourself. That's the way it goes. But so I was calculating I was trying to figure out, and it was a little difficult from this report, exactly how much money we would be requesting for the use of the camping area on South Beach. And I figured, like your figures here say, camper fees and the 101 to 500 campers, I was figuring you were going with that figure, that there would be somewhere less than 500 campers. And that the total charge for camping would be 687.50, or am I way off?
Through the chair, could you give me one moment just to review?
Yeah.
So through the chair, staff would anticipate there being about, so there's been up to 1,200 campers in the past, but through this 50% formula, that would get knocked down, effectively that gets knocked down to 600 for the purpose of the calculation. So if we take, you know, if we say they're in the $750 a day range under the large event fee.
Yeah.
And apply 50% to that, they're looking at somewhere around $1,500 in camper fees. So they might bring in the $78,000 in revenue for camping. We would charge $1,500 plus 50, is it $30 a day? And plus $30 a day. And I believe that's for 12 days. So yeah, the total charge might be around $2,000 at most for use of the lands for, you know, the 12 days for set up and tear down or whatever it ends up being, plus the 4 days of camping.
Through the chair, have you any idea that this is in the, have you had any discussions at all about that this is a change that we would be looking at?
Through the chair, no. We received it Thursday afternoon, scrambled to try to put a staff report together Friday, and then occupied with open house and RV stuff on Monday. So there's, yeah, no time to even talk about it.
Sure, there wasn't.
Counselor Leacock.
Through the chair. I think last year, or was it last year? I mean, at one time, the owner of the property had to get a temporary permit, which was $500, I believe, something like that. I mean, I understand where we're going with this, but I feel that's a fairly big surprise for Jazz Fest that we're going to be charging them these fees without, and I know they got their all the stuff in late. I just would love to have a conversation with them before we start charging them extra money.
Discussion? So that was moved and seconded?
Mhm.
Yes? Okay. There's no further discussion? Question?
Recommendation, motion again.
So that the 2025 Jazz Fest event, the Kaslo Jazz Etc. Society be charged a daily land use fee of $30 a day and camper fees that are 50% of the village's large event fees as part of the license of occupation for the use of the village's South Beach lands as a campground.
You know, staff can appreciate, we're uncomfortable as well with the whole process, that
Mhm.
we haven't got a chance to talk about it. And yet, providing the land for free, and there's at least no acknowledgement of the assistance that the village is providing to the event, doesn't seem right. And so if council is hesitant to apply something like this, understandably, what might make sense is to proceed with the recommendations you've already made and pass through resolution, and allow staff an opportunity to have a discussion with the event organizers and let them know that council, if this is true, is interested in having a discussion about fees that might apply for use of this land. And then staff can report back to council, but effectively negotiate something post-event. Whether it goes somewhere or not is irrelevant. At least they're on notice that council's interested in looking at this a little closer, especially for events moving forward.
So
Like that alternative.
do or do not pass the resolution. I guess it's up to council what they wish to do, whether we go with the motion that has been moved and seconded
Amend it.
or amend it.
I'm good with the amendment.
What's the amendment? We,
Read it back.
Yes,
Through the chair, let staff enter into a discussion with the Kaslo Jazz, et cetera, society with respect to fees for the license of occupation related to the village's South Beach lands as a campground, and report back to council.
but for clarity, that essentially would mean we're not approving charging fees for this year.
Correct.
Okay, that we're gonna discuss it for next year.
Yeah, and so there would have to be a motion made for the amendment, then a vote. And if it passes, then you're then you're good.
Councillor Burris.
further, I don't mind the $30 a day for 12 days. I'd keep that. It's the camper fees I would like to. In the ideal world, they would have made their application on time and we would have had a month and a half to negotiate what's fair. And so that one is, I think, is the spring, that to spring it on them is quite a lot at this stage, which is their own fault. But the $30 a day, I have no problem with. So can we amend the motion can we split the motion?
Can we make it fair?
Well, and
We're working on right now, we're working on,
well, we're
Friday,
working on,
like,
nobody has moved the amendment yet. So we're working on the original motion, and actually, I don't know whether what you've amended it to, it really does change the intent.
Correct.
So we'd have to vote on this or amend it to just end at the $30 a day.
can I make a suggestion through the chair? We vote this down, we start with a new resolution about the $30 a day, see if that passes. And then we make a subsequent motion about negotiating camping fees for future years with Jazz Fest.
Also rescind the motion.
We haven't made it. So
Yeah.
rescind.
The main motion can be
Yeah.
rescinded.
Or can it just be withdrawn? By the
Yeah,
mover,
that's,
second.
yeah.
Okay. So do the mover and seconder wish to withdraw the motion then?
Sure.
Mhm.
I don't know. Robert's rules, can we do that? Because it becomes,
Yeah, no, it's good.
okay,
Yeah, you can rescind the motion, and then a new motion can be put on the
Okay.
table if someone is interested.
all right.
I can make a motion.
Okay,
That the 2025 Jazz Fest event, that the Kaslo Jazz Etc. Society be charged a daily land use fee of $30 a day for the use of the village's South Beach lands as a campground.
I'll
I just
second.
Took out the middle.
Do we want to reference the number of days at all? No?
Well, through the chair, I would leave it because staff haven't confirmed exactly how many days they're occupying the land for at this
Okay.
point.
All right. Okay, so that's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Counselor Lang?
Yeah, through the chair. I don't ever remember dealing with this Jazz Fest business this close to the event.
No,
It's always been in April or something, they've come forward, April, May, in that area. So I'm not terribly sympathetic at this point in time. I'm not suggesting penalizing them financially, but I'm just saying it might be nice to draw that to their attention and in the future, make these requests at least 90 days in advance.
So, we'll get through this motion. That would just be I'm sure staff has probably already brought that to their attention, that it's made it very difficult process at this for the event. And because they know what their requests are going to be well in advance, I'm sure, because some of them are standard year over year. But so on the motion that was moved and seconded, is there any further discussion, or do you need it read back? Anyone? No? Okay. So all those in favor? That motion is carried. Just then refer, what was your second? What was your second thought regarding the negotiation with the,
I don't,
or was that yourself, Councillor Bird, wanted to make a subsequent motion?
Well, through the chair, so in keeping with that suggestion that we don't actually charge for this year, because it's too much of a surprise, and we appreciate the fact that it would be a bit of a shock, that we refer to staff as soon as possible, like probably right after, like let Jazz Fest know that we are contemplating charging big event fees or 50% of it for the use of that village land and South Beach. And then have a discussion after the event with the Jazz Fest organizers to negotiate a fair fee. So referral to staff to negotiate a fair fee, but I would like them to get a heads up prior to the event. What would happen after the event?
So staff, do we have?
clean that one up.
that?
could I just add, is council considering applying the camper fee to 2025, or are we talking about future years?
No, the camper fee, the $30 was for this year.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
so-
so I'm gonna call that the daily rate of $30 is going to be charged. We have carried a resolution.
Yeah.
And is the camper fee, this percent based on number of campers, is that also for 2025 or for future years?
Future.
And so then what staff would suggest is that there's going to be a conversation between staff and event organizers that council wants to take a closer look at this in the future, keeping in mind though, that it's also possible if the RV park development proceeds, that this might be a non-issue in future years.
Right.
So what staff might suggest is that, resolution might not be necessary tonight, but staff have a conversation and make a note that we might need to talk about it more with them.
Councillor Bird, sorry.
Through the chair, I would like them to know that we were considering charging them this fee, and then we decided not to, despite the fact that because there was no time to negotiate, which we don't consider to be. I just think they should know that we discussed applying this fee and decided not to, because we really would like to be in a position where we can negotiate in good faith, and we don't have the time, obviously.
Yeah, duly
Direction
noted,
staff,
certainly,
yeah.
and that might kind of lead us to the last recommendation, which, is if you've read the staff report, made an effort to communicate everything that council's also reiterated here about the discomfort with receiving last minute requests. And so further to Councillor Lang's suggestion that there going to be a 60-day, 90-day cutoff for these applications, staff are recommending that in order to enhance the partnership and the relationship between the village and the event organizers, that they work with our events committee, and then we have another mechanism or way of keeping it top of mind that we're expecting applications to be coming through for their event.
So that is the the next recommendation, that major community events, including those organized by the Kaslo Jazz, etc. Society and the Chamber of Commerce, be referred to the village's events committee. By Councillor Bird. By Councillor Lang. Discussion. Councillor Leitwood.
Do we need to change the terms of reference then? Because the terms of reference for the events committee were events we put on ourselves, like Kaslo's birthday and so if we're going to refer these kind of things, then we should change the terms of reference for that committee.
To the chair, if you bear with me for a moment, I'll just pull up the terms of reference for the committee. When staff originally read the terms of reference, we noted that its role is communications with external organizations as required, develop partnerships and collaborate with external organizations in the stage of community events, et cetera, et cetera. And so staff felt like there's enough verbiage in there that supports the recommendation.
Okay.
So it's moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor? And then our last item, probably buried in email somewhere, but and we'll just go ahead and do it because I think our August meeting will be too late because they send out the materials in advance, because there's usually quite a significant package. So for the Municipal Insurance Association voting delegate, so they always ask for a main voting delegate and then an alternate if the main delegate could not make it. And it's you have to check in, and because you only get one voting card, there's prizes that are awarded. They're not personal prizes, but they used to win iPads and stuff, but now they do risk management grants. So 5,000, 3,000, 2,000 for community. So it's an incentive for people to attend the meeting. So try that. The municipal is that Mayor Hewitt, the main voting delegate, and Councillor Brown be the alternate voting delegate for the Village of Kaslo for the Municipal Insurance Association AGM in Victoria. Does that work?
Yes, that does work. Thank you.
I'll move that.
Moved by Councillor Leitwood, seconded by Councillor Bird. Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion is carried. So then that brings us to the end of our meeting because we have no in camera this evening. A motion to adjourn at 7:18. Everybody, so it's adjourned.
Wow.
Hour and a half, this would have been my lunch.
You didn't surprise your family. Oh, it's an hour and a half, even with the drive.
That's nice. You can have a, go to the grocery